All right, let's get started with our first guest. For over the past 10 years, Craig has interpreted over 6,000 dreams, and what he has learned in doing so is nothing short of remarkable. His passion is to help others learn to understand their dreams, and he has been teaching people nationwide how to just do that. Adult community enrichment classes help him to do that. The attendees go away informed, educated, fascinated, and enthused about the future of their their personal dream journeys. Boy, I need a new set of glasses here. Maybe a little bit of cleaner would help too. Most of all, they get insight at his classes regarding those mysterious dreams that they've had and walk away grateful when they came. His book is called Sleeping with Your Eyes Open, Warning Dreams. You can go check out Craig's website at dreamclassguy.com. Go check out the website. There's a lot of stuff out there to look at. Without any further delay, let's go ahead and get Craig on the phone. Craig, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk and the Fringe Radio Show.
Good evening, Pat. It's great to be here.
Well, it's great to have you here. And are you I was watching. You're in Minnesota, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
I was watching the local news here just before I left. Did you guys get snow or frost, or is winter coming really quick that way?
Well, we got well below zero, well below freezing, I should say, last night or this morning. So, yeah, things are starting to set in, and I guess they happen first in Minnesota in the winter.
They always do. It always seems like the weather there. And, boy, this summer, I'm a Chicago native.
Sure.
We had a beautiful summer here in Salt Lake City, but I know in Chicago, I'm not sure if up in the Twin Cities or Minneapolis or wherever you're from, summer just never really happened up that way.
You know, actually for us, it happened a little bit better than last year, but for the last few years, indeed, it's been quite cold.
Really? Yeah. It's been really, really, really crazy for sure.
Okay.
Anyway, Craig, why don't you? I gave a little bit of your of what you do, and why don't you give our listeners a little bit of the backstory? How did you get into dream interpretation? How did this all come about for you? How did it all take you from when you started to where you are today?
Well, you know, actually when I was 18 years old, I started journaling and doing diaries. And during that time, I would journal dreams. I just thought it would be interesting to journal some of the dreams I had. And I guess I kind of thought some of them were significant. I wrote a few down, and what really kicked it off was I had a precognitive dream that told the future of a house that I would be living in. I saw the house ahead of time. And after that day, I thought, wow, something's really going on, but I didn't give it much more thought for another 25, 30 years. I kind of just let it down. And then back in 1998, about 14 or 16 years ago, I started picking that up in earnest, and I started writing down every dream, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. I'm going to start exploring my dreams just to see if there's anything significant I can glean from that. And over the course of time, I did learn that, you know what, hey, dreams are, they reveal our reality and potential, our past, our present, our future, are all in our dreams. And paying attention to dreams, I found out, can really help to bring healing and health to us emotionally, spiritually, psychosomatically, even physically. It's just amazing, the world of dreams, and I'm deeply in it at this point, and encourage everyone to take a look.
Do we all dream, Craig? It seems like for me, and I don't know if this is something you hear with all the people that you talk with and work with, but it seems like, at least for me, I don't remember many of my dreams. Every now and then I do, but for the most part, I go to bed at night. I wake up in the morning when the alarm clock goes off, and I just... I don't know, maybe it's got to be something out of the ordinary, but I don't know if I dream. Does everybody dream?
You know, everyone does dream. Physiologically, if we didn't dream every night or regularly, we would ultimately die. It's a part of our whole nature. It's a part of our functioning system in our body physiologically. So we all do dream dreams every night, 3 to 7 dreams per night virtually. And it's just that we're not remembering these dreams, and a few reasons are things like we don't believe they play a significant role in our lives, particularly in the Western civilization that we live in, and we don't know the language of dreams, so we can't interpret them, and so, you know, they're kind of like useless, and we're just not paying attention and recording them. immediately after we have those dreams. So those are some of the things that happen there. I mean, after 5 minutes of waking, 50% of your dream is forgotten, and after 10 minutes, 90% is gone with most of our dreams. So certainly that's why you may not remember, and like your spouse may remember, Carol may remember her dreams more so than you do, or whatever, vice versa, but many people just don't.
Yeah, and I shouldn't say it's crazy, but it is, to me, it interests me that the dreams that I do remember are usually ones that are pretty vivid. They're not commonplace ones. They're the ones that I remember when I wake up in the morning. Are the ones that are, I guess, vivid is the only word I can come up with, Craig. The ones that are maybe very emotional.
Yeah,
maybe
sure.
Ones where I guess maybe they can even border on nightmare a little bit.
Sure. Yep.
Those are the ones that seem to stick with you. And then, to me, at least, I sometimes believe that, at least I haven't had that many instances of it, but, what they call deja vu, for me at least, seems to originate in my dream, and then if I see something, look at something a certain way, turn my head a certain way, whatever, just see that thing, it all lines up. It seems like a deja vu for me, it kind of originates in the dream state.
I would agree with you. Two comments about that. Your vivid dreams, you know what? Especially for people who dream regularly and have many dreams a night, basically, or whatever, I tell them, if you're not going to record these dreams, try to capture at least those vivid dreams. Generally, your vivid dreams will be your most significant dreams. They will be some real life-changing, potentially life-changing dreams. Just very significant if you could take a deeper look at them. At least write them down for now and maybe try to grasp what they mean later. Secondly, deja vu, I believe deja vu is, I define it as really a result of you having a precognitive dream in a time past that you didn't write down, so you don't have any record of it, so it escapes your conscious mind, and then months or years later, you come to that situation in your reality that you're experiencing what you dreamt about months or years ago, but you can't find your way back to pinpointing where it came from, so we all go do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. We don't know where that came from. I think these are forgotten dreams in our subconscious, and that finally we're living out that day, and indeed this happens quite regularly.
Why do we dream, Craig? I mean, what do you think? And I guess we could talk about that because that could go a lot of different directions. But
sure, yes.
Do you think it is? It's the. I know that, in doing this program, and I've had the opportunity to interview other people that do dream analysis, kind of like yourself. And then, of course, there's a lot of people that, if you want to talk about maybe metaphysical type stuff or paranormal or psychic type stuff, some people feel that dreams are, I don't want to maybe use the word is another dimension, but is maybe somewhat of another reality. Do you think it's a mental reality? Do you think that dreams could be no more than the body at rest and the chemicals in the brain are rearranged a little bit or at different levels? I mean, what do you think a dream is? What's your take on what a dream really is?
Well, we all have our bias and belief, and the great part about it is that you can believe what you want, and the science can go so far with dreams, but they can't interpret them, and they can't be subjective about them, and even really, they can say maybe go to the place where psychologically it's, that's why we dream and all these things. But ultimately, it gets down to your own personal belief system, basically, and I'm fine with all that. Some people say, well, it's psychic, or it's psychological, or it's spiritual, and I'm okay with any of that because all of that is probably is very reasonable. My bias, and like I said, we all have them. I have a bias that, especially when it gets down to some of our vivid or our certain dreams that I can't explain, and particularly ones like that forecast the future. So with something like that, I tend to think that this is maybe something outside of ourselves. You know, you can call it, force or energy. You can even call it God. You can call it whatever you want. But there's something that seemingly that invades our life and tells us about those things in the future. And it's hard for me to explain that that's in our own psyche and so forth. But that's what we're all free to do. And really, the point that I give to people is that, these things are happening, whatever you believe as far as why you believe they're happening. But they are mysteries, and no matter what you believe, these are mysteries that are going on that science can't explain.
Is there anything that a person can do to maybe, and I'm not talking about alcohol or pills or medicine or anything, but is there things that can enhance a person's dream? I mean, like, I think, and this has probably happened to just about everybody listening out there, if you went and saw a scary movie,
right.
There's a good chance that, at least in my case, in several cases, that maybe the characters in that movie, one for sure that sticks in my mind that is one of those dreams I don't I got a few dreams I'll never forget, but I went and saw the original movie years and years ago, Alien.
Right.
Scared the living heck out of me. And whenever I see that movie or see aliens or, I tend to, if I watch it during the day or at night or see a rerun, I tend to dream about these type of creatures.
Right. And that's totally common. And I call those sometimes even soulish type dreams. Those are the type of dreams that it's kind of like, you know what, and sorry that I call Aliens garbage, or the movie Alien garbage, but it's kind of like garbage in, garbage out, if you will.
Oh, sure.
These are the things we encounter in every day of our life, and it's kind of like a trash system, I mean, really, because just think if we had to, as people, walk into life and carry the previous day and days and months and years with us every day in our psyche, we would have an overload. So we have this cleansing system, if you will, out of our conscious mind or subconscious mind that just cleans the stuff out, and dreams, I believe, are one of those outlets to really just release some of the stuff, especially the things you were overconsumed with maybe, the excessive fears, excessive emotions, excessive things that you let your eyes visualize that particular day or night. I mean, you can go at a doubleheader of a baseball game and come home and you'll dream baseball all night.
Right.
It's kind of a flushing out of our system, if you will, and I think that is really a healthy part of what we do with dreams.
Do people ever, like with dreams, do people ever sometimes get messages about reality or the real world through dreams?
Oh, wow. Yes. That's why I've continued to listen to my own dreams and hear other people's dreams. There are so many different messages, and, I talk about different types of dreams, that being dreams that give us, they can give us instruction or direction or alerts or warning or inventions, creative inventions, or tell us about the future and all these types of things. A knowledge, we know more than we know consciously. And if, by exploring dreams, I have this a knowledge base I've never been able to have before. Sometimes I just know things. Matter of fact, and it comes from even beyond dreams, but just the fact of paying attention and being conscious of these things. A friend of mine just called me from Missouri, and he went down to pick up a dog, a new, puppy. And he came back and he said, "Craig, I'm going to text you a picture." And he sent me text me a picture, and I said, "Hey, Beauty." And he said, "That's funny. That's what I named the dog. I named it Beauty." And I said, "That's the first thing that came to my mind." I mean, through dreams, I've come to find that, we just are afraid. We don't ask enough questions. But even our thought life and our mentality sometimes is such that we know more than we know, and the subconscious even has so much to tell us that we're not exploring that enough.
Well, and we had a couple questions. We got a lot of questions sent in for you. Mm-hmm. And I got a question that we have a group that listens to us up at the University of Utah. A bunch of engineering students actually listen to us every Saturday night. And I got a long email, and I'm going to try to condense this down because Tracy wrote in. she said quite a few lines, but I think this is what she's getting at. When we have dreams and we have interactions in dreams, the interacting, if you're in the dream itself, which I believe we most likely always are, and we have interactions with people, those interactions of those people, do you think is that our psyche that is creating those interactions, or could those potentially be outside forces coming in? You know what I'm saying? If you're in a room in a dream with 5 people and you're all talking about something, is that your psyche, your conscious, that's creating those ideas of those other 5 people, Craig? Or could there be some sort of outside influence? And you know what I'm getting at?
Absolutely, sure. Great question. And indeed, first of all, along with that question needs to be answered by this. I believe sometimes we can create that because we may have a person we know and we expect a certain response from them. And like I said, this can be something that I'll just say soulish. It comes out of ourselves. And then we have sometimes things that people give us. For instance, I had a dream that I lived with this roommate friend of mine named Todd for about 5 years, and this was like 35 years ago. And I grew up in the same town as he did. I knew his family and whatever, but I had a dream a few years ago, and I went upstairs in a building in my hometown where Todd and I both grew up, and I went upstairs in a building downtown, and I met this woman, and this woman was telling me all about her watching Todd and her family with Todd was in grow up all these years and whatever, and she's an adult now and whatever, and she just talked about the family and how they all turned out so great and blah, blah, blah. And I woke up that morning going, wow, it was his oldest sister. And I knew that Todd doesn't have an older sister. I called up Todd. I said, Todd, I had a dream, and in the dream I spoke with, a woman who claimed to be your oldest sister. I know you never had an older sister. He says, oh, my word, that's bizarre you say that, because about 15 years ago, my aunt came up to me and told me that your parents never told you this, but you had a sister who was born before you, and Todd was the oldest of 4 kids. A sister was born before you, and she indeed, she died soon after birth, if not even stillborn, and she's buried out in Idaho. And so he said, how would you know that, Craig? I said, I don't know, So, again, there's knowledge or this thing that comes in. Again, my bias suggests that it's outside of myself, but I'm okay to listen to anyone's belief of that. But how do you explain it? I don't know how to explain it beyond a belief that there's something else where knowledge exists, all knowledge exists, and somehow it's feeding us and giving us that information.
Yeah. Well, again, and that's those external sources.
Exactly.
Again, is it your psyche creating that, or like you said, is that anticipation?
Right. Well, it's kind of like, and I'll probably get into it a little bit later in the night about warning dreams, which is kind of really a specialty that I'm into. But warning dreams are, like I said, one of those things that are, in my mind, are so outside of ourselves. I mean, in our household, because we pay attention to dreams, we had 3 dreams right before September 11th, and we saw some of the things happening. We knew something globally wrong was about to happen in our household from 3 dreams. What is that? Why? Why did we catch that? And there were other people in the world that also sensed or saw something before it happened. My son saw all 4 planes. He knew we were at war with Iraq, which wasn't until another year later, et cetera, et cetera. How do you explain that,
Did he see details, Craig? I mean, so this was pre 9/11?
Correct, and days before 9/11, and he saw, and there again, we have to understand, some of these things he saw symbolically, but he saw them as missiles, and he saw missiles in the air, and 2 of them, as he looked eastward from Minnesota, he could see it at the horizon, 2 missiles, a missile coming down to the earth, and another one coming up and hitting it and meeting it and exploding in the air just above the horizon. Well, that could, for him, that was explained by the fact of the two that met at the same buildings, the same two twin towers in New York City. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And the president that afternoon said we were attacked by two people, by a group that turned these airplanes into missiles. He used the word missiles, which my son had in a dream. My son saw all these plastered sheets of paper up on walls and windows in a building he was in when he ran for cover, and all the signs they put up saying, "Have you seen this person? Have you seen this person?" Right. And he also knew that the third airplane, the fourth airplane hit the ground violently, and no one was injured. And of course, outside of the plane, no one was injured. On and on like that. So it was incredible. And right away, when the event happened, my son called me on the phone when he heard it on the news. He said, "Dad, my dream," and he identified with it immediately.
Where do you think that came from, Craig? I mean, how do you think that, was it, I don't know, precognition? Was it an outside force? I mean, what do you think caused that? Yeah.
Well, I tend to believe in this, I tend to believe in, and I call these sometimes, I call them God dreams even in a generic sense. I'm not hung up on the word, but I just call them God dreams in the way that God, we have a definition of God being all-knowing, all-powerful, things like that. Certainly something that or someone who could see into the future. So biblically and in most religions, this stuff is easily explained and believed in the fact that, in Christianity, Joseph was told to flee into Egypt with the baby Jesus, or he would be killed, and the Magi were told to go another way, and all these warnings and stuff that they had that were real, and that if they weren't obeyed or done, if nothing was responded to, they would have disaster would have occurred and so forth. So, I just have there again. I'm just stuck believing that there is some outward force, and whatever that force would be, and different people believe again those forces are different things. But I just can't imagine how my psyche can come up with that. Now, if it can, so be it. Again, that's the reason for faith. We all have faith or have belief systems, and none of it can be proven. It can be believed.
Right. Right. And like with dreams, you have to go on faith, if you will.
Right.
of believing in yourself.
That's right. Yep.
Is there? We got a ton of questions sent in, and we've got, of course, a lot of talking points that you sent, and we want to cover. But let's go ahead and just throw a few of them out there from some of our listeners.
Yeah.
One of the questions is it true that a person can control their dreams beforehand?
Right. I don't know what they mean by beforehand, but certainly as dreams happen, and this is called lucid dreaming, where people can, and certain people have a better knack of doing it than others. I'm not real good at it. My son, for instance, my youngest son, has more lucid dreams where he can manipulate and change the ending or change the scenes by his own desire, so to speak. He can interact with his own dreams. So certainly that is true, that you can do that. Why or how, I don't exactly know.
Let me stop you real quick. Lucid dreaming. What's your definition of lucid dreaming? Some people say it's a form of daydreaming. What's your definition of lucid dreaming?
Well, I don't have a lot of lucid dreams, so I can't expertly address it by the fact that I've experienced it many, many times and I've been able to analyze it. But I would say from what I hear, I would say that it's many people seem to be actually in a dream in order to be able to manipulate that dream. I mean, they're manipulating actually a deep dream in a deep REM sleep, so to speak. Not so much visionary. Certainly in a and when I talk about dreams, by the way, let's not discount just visions people have. Most people, I'm telling you, the things they see vision-wise, even when they're awake or conscious, because people think they're just crazy, But this happens to people. They see things, and it's not that they're mentally disturbed or anything like this. It's a common phenomena that people see these things. But back to your question, lucid dreaming, I really don't have any type of. I've never observed enough dreams to give you something intelligent.
Okay, all right, no, that's fair. I have, you know, and we're going to touch a little bit upon a little later on if it's okay, because we got a lot of questions about dreaming and the potential correlation or relationship to what some people will call an abduction scenario.
Sure.
You know, and of course lucid dreaming, a lot of times when people are talking about abduction scenarios or being abducted during states of lucid dreaming, they believe some of these things are possibly going on with them.
Right.
What about nightmares? Especially you know, people that you know, I've read, I should say, in some cases actually people have died of heart attacks because of such intense nightmare scenarios. What's your take on nightmares and things that just scare the living hell out of you?
Well, my take on nightmares, and by the way, I've had very few in my life. I'm just not a person who's experienced that either, so I like to put an asterisk there, again, because I don't have the expertise of personal observation. But in listening to many people with nightmares and so forth, I believe nightmares are simply excessive fears and emotions that are way out of control, that are simply out of control, and by the fact that we might have them would be a signal for us individually to those who have them that they need to get help in that particular area, counseling or whatever, to really get in control of some of these excessive fears and so forth. Obviously, many people have this from trauma and things in their past. Of course, military people deal with this, in great part, that has post-traumatic stress and things like that. That gets really to be some real issues with the mental, with our minds and so forth that they need certainly help and counseling with. So I just think that these, what you should do with your nightmares is try to even find out what it's directing them, where they, what are you seeing in these nightmares, if you can describe the things and so forth, which will be symbolic type things, but then interpret those things, but because generally they will maybe even be triggered by recent fears or something that previous day that could trigger them, or just being out of control in a particular area of, that maybe you're panicked and so forth in, will obviously spawn these types of dreams.
That's interesting. Confuse you. Yeah, exactly. Confusion in our real lives, or something maybe in our real lives that scares us or confuses us a lot, could be transferred over into a dream state.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We deal with this a lot. And like I said, a lot of our dreams will deal with our past, depending on how much we've been able to get through our past, walk through our past, get healed from things of our past, from the hurts and wounds and trauma and all those types of things. They really can show up in dreams.
Very, very interesting. When we talk about maybe nightmares, something that I think probably a lot of us experience, and from my personal experience with dreams, I would say that I don't want to say that I've had nightmares. I would say that I've had dreams where maybe I'm scared. I mean, I have a fear of something. One thing that does scare me, and I've had this recurring dream. It doesn't happen once a week, once a month. Sometimes it's once a year. Sometimes once every other year. But I have this dream of getting lost. I think maybe it stems back to youth when I went shopping with my aunt in Chicago at Marshall Fields downtown. I was a little kid. I walked down this aisle. I think I was expecting her to be right there with me. I turned around and she was gone. I started looking for her, and I went into a state of panic when I was a young child. And now, whenever I have one of these dreams, like I end up walking down an alley, or I'm in a store. I go down a store, an aisle in a store, and I turn around and I'm lost, or I just get lost. The fear of getting lost to me is almost like a nightmare, and that kind of scares me. Do you work with a lot of people that have scenarios similar to that, or you hear things, maybe not getting lost, but a topic that comes up from time to time? And before you answer that, we've got to take a quick commercial break.
I bet you do.
So I'll let you think on that one real quick. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fringe Radio Show. Our guest tonight, we're so honored to have him here, is Craig Groethe, the dream expert guy. Craig, again, thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend to be here with us.
Hey, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
So before we went into the break, I went into this little bit of a long-winded thing about my fears of getting lost when I was young, something that really did happen to me. And when I have a dream where I get lost, boy, it terrifies me.
Right. Well, let's talk a little bit about these types of dreams. I'm going to call them reoccurring or repetitive dreams. They're extremely common. And I can really and have been able to help out a lot of people with these, and I'll help you out tonight. And one of the things is this: you kind of turning the whole dream around backwards. We might find some answers here. Really, what you should do is, what repetitive dreams to me are, I define them as dreams that keep coming back, and they keep coming back to you, whether it be, like you said, monthly, yearly, or whatever, because there's something in your life that or an adjustment in your life you're not making. You're not getting to the picture of what the dream's telling you, and if you did, you'd make the adjustment, and when you make the adjustment, the dreams will go away, virtually, or will only come back because of a certain something that triggers them. So what I'd really recommend for you to do, Pat, is the next time you have a dream that you're lost, I would have you take a look at the previous day, for instance, or the season of time you're in, because you might find that just like when you were that child and you were lost and you had those particular emotions, you may be going through something similar in this season of time, that you're feeling a little bit lost. Maybe you're lost at your work. Maybe and people in general being lost, it's a common one. Maybe they're lost in the fact that they don't feel educated enough. By the way, a lot of times that's when dreams of going back to high school, or you're in a school system or in college, because you feel, I don't have the education. But in this case, you're feeling lost. So you're feeling lost because you're sharing some of those high emotions that you shared, like I said, experienced with that situation of being lost when you were young. So what do you do about that? You simply try to understand that when you're lost, deal with that more. And I mean, you can either do it by yourself, you can go see a counselor and all those things, but it's showing you that it's an area of your life that you're more vulnerable, and or an area of your life where you could do something more about it if you spent more time focused on getting help in that particular area. Does that kind of make sense?
It does. It does. So, like you said, see what possibly triggered it. Maybe think back. Now, let me ask you, Craig, would you, obviously it sounds like, do you write down all your dreams when you can remember them in the morning?
Yes, virtually. Let me just say, when I started 16 years ago, I wrote down every single dream or partial dream I had virtually. It took me a long time to do in the different mornings. Certainly now I can wake up in the middle of the night or in the morning, and I discard a few that just are, like I say, more soulish, or I kind of go through them and we'll throw out a few. But generally, they need to be written down in order for us to grasp them, especially dreams about the future. How are you going to ever know you had a dream about something in the future if you don't write it down? Because then we can go back and look at it, and it has a date and time attached to it and so forth. You can show your friends and things like that. So, indeed, I write these dreams down.
Do you think that potentially enhances or maybe better prepares the dreaming cycle, if you want to call it that?
Well, let's put it this way. The number one thing we need to do about dreams is this. You need to start paying attention. That's what I tell people as far as the tip number one is start paying attention to your dreams. How do you do that? It's a discipline. You're going to have to take time. You're going to have to begin this dream journey to do that. And it takes time out of your valuable evening, and it takes time from sleep. But like I said, you have seconds from when you wake up, and I believe most of the reasons you wake up in the middle of the night is to be able to write down the dream you just woke up from, because you only have a short amount of time. But if you start journaling your dreams, and there again, I'm just an average guy who started paying attention to dreams, and it turned my whole life upside down. So I am in the world of dreams. I experience dreams. My job right now, I've got a job on the side that I'm in a business right now that's based on a dream I had. My wife teaches piano in middle school, and instead of learning general music out of a book, to over 700 kids a year, based on a dream she had. So we've got our dream jobs, and these types of things. I don't want to get away from the question, but yeah. So that's they just become realities to us.
Let me throw out some questions that were sent in. We got quite a few of them. Another question from Lorraine is, Craig, does knowing multiple languages affect one's dreaming?
Wow, never had that question. Does knowing? No, you just have to, if you know more languages, you just have to work around it. That would maybe be all that I could say about that. Again, I've known a few. I only know one other language. Sometimes I've had someone speak to me in a language, and have heard other people who say this person said to me this word or this sentence, and actually it ends up that person doesn't even know that language, but it actually is something in another language, which is, phenomenal. But knowing languages, I don't think it's going to hinder anything. It could enhance. I would just say this. If you know other languages, when you wake up, you may want to ask yourself, why did I last night have a dream where they spoke or I spoke in this particular language? If you could answer that question, it could help in revealing what the dream might mean.
Do you think that, and this is just a question for you, for me, is do you think that in a dream state, let's say that, like myself, I know a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of Italian, that's about it. Have you ever heard of situations or people that have had dreams that maybe something is spoken to them in German or in Russian or in French or another language, and in that dream they're able to interpret that, but in everyday reality or real life, if we want to call it that, they could never figure something like that out? Do people get, let's call them special powers or special gifts in the dream state?
Right. And sometimes, yes, there are different situations like that. I can't put a finger on one right now necessarily, but all those types of things are possible, where someone can say, I woke, in this dream, I heard the word, whatever, in another language. And they many times even know intuitively what the word means. They wake up, and sure enough, they go explore this, and they find out that is the word. There really is a word, and indeed, it really does mean what they thought it meant intuitively.
I'm going to go real deep here on this one, okay?
Yes.
I actually wasn't going to pose this one to you, but I'm going to go ahead and pose this to you.
Sure.
I received an email, actually, the other day. I have a lot of listeners that send emails in. I do get some crazy things sent to me. I have one listener who wrote in this question, and this is, I guess I'm going to call it a little disturbing here. So we're going to go a little bit out on the fringe with this one.
Yep.
It says, could you ask your guest about dreams that when you realize you are in this dream, you come to, if you will, in the dream, we do things that we normally would not do, i.e. killing somebody, hurting somebody, potentially raping somebody. This is something that I experience from time to time. That's not me. This is what the question was sent in.
Right. That's it. Yeah, well, that's kind of getting back to the lucid dreaming, where they do recognize I am in a dream, therefore I can really do what I want to do without paying the consequences for that, right?
Right.
Let me just say this. What I've realized with dreams like this and listening to other people, one of the things I realize is that it might tell you something about yourself, because if you could, it's kind of like who you are is what you do when you're alone, right? I mean, it may speak of something about you or your subconscious mind in some way of what you would do in a certain situation, and the consequences, regardless of consequences. I'm not saying it means that you really would do that in real life, but it just, you can fulfill whatever fantasy you have, I suppose, if you can dream lucidly like that, if I'm understanding the question.
Well, kind of, I think the question was, and that definitely answers it, but in this person's, with this person, they were talking, they were kind of concerned that, they were doing things out of the norm, if you will, things
right.
that maybe weren't, definitely kind of on the edge. We got a caller. You want to take a call?
Sure, let's do a call.
Okay. Caller, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk. You're on with Craig.
Hey, how you doing, Chief? It's Harv.
Hey, Harv, what's up?
Man, he's saying some good stuff, man.
Oh, yeah.
First thing, I thought I thought I had dreams figured out. I thought dreams is just to show you what the potential is. I thought, man, that's what it is. It's maybe something to do with pineal or something, the whole, higher level thing. But he's saying that there's so many. Yeah, it makes sense. The thing is complex.
Really complex.
It's all of it.
It really is, Arv, and but the thing is too is that.
What's your name?
My name's Craig.
Craig?
Yes.
Hey, Craig. Arv here.
Nice to meet you.
You too, pal. Thanks, man.
Right. Well, and I guess the main thing is that the wonderful thing is we can each find out for ourselves what our dreams tell us. Obviously, you're going to be different than me, but basically there is a dream world that really is not a dream world. It's a reality world. For instance, if I might just take a few seconds and tell you, I've gotten the first and last names and the nationality, or I should say first and last name and the nationality of a man who I bought a business, or who bought my business, a business that I owned 4 months before I met the gentleman, okay? I knew the name of my friend's high school girlfriend based on a dream. I got the first and last name in my dream of a person that ended up being my niece's boyfriend. So just even with names and knowledge with that, so many things like that. Like I said, my wife had a dream of a teacher, a co-teacher that she, had a dream with her throwing up and vomiting profusely. Went to school that day, and for some reason that day she was the first teacher she met, and normally she doesn't see her. She met her, and indeed she was pregnant, and she had been throwing up very terribly and not telling anyone about it. And things like this are. So the point is, with all of us, by just paying attention, you'll start finding that there are these types of things, and it's a whole nother world. But it's reality.
I've been thinking that, for my dreams, it shows me what is possible.
Okay.
And now that I talk to you, it's more than that. But it works for me. I tell you, I run off them.
You're right.
I had a great dream today or last night, and man, it just wrecked me. As in the point of being a great thing, because man, it was wonderful.
Right.
I did peyote one time to try and pull back the curtain.
Yes.
See who was behind it.
Right.
And I see the dreams are the non medicine part of it. You can use that. I don't think it is. It part of is it well? Is it part of the psychological part of our brain, or is it like some input? Do you think?
Well, this is what we're discussing tonight, and that's based on many belief systems that cannot be nothing that can be conclusive.
I tried that whirling dervish thing about 20 years ago, and it worked the same way.
Mm-hmm. Right. I do want to address the purity and things like that. You can use things to enhance, for instance, and so forth.
Hey, guys, I got to stop you for a minute. I got an NBC News break coming up in just a little bit.
Yep.
Harv, how about we'll let you go. You listen, and if you want, call back in.
Okay, I'll go charge up my phone. I've been busy for 2 days. Hey, okay. No, all right. Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
All right.